Hey, welcome to another episode of Bronco Battalion's Questions of the Week. I'm your Scholarship and Enrollment Officer, Billy Clayton, and this week's question, what is the difference between an ROTC program and OCS? OCS stands for Officer Candidate School, and so to help me answer that question this week, I brought along a guest.
Hi, I'm MAJ Ryan McCann. I'm a graduate of the Western Michigan University ROTC program.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. And I'm currently the officer in charge of the 177th Regiment Regional Training Institute, and we have an OCS program at our schoolhouse.
All right, so let's get to it. If you want to learn about if this is your first video that you've seen from us and you want to learn more about an ROTC program, you can check out this particular video on what is an ROTC. That's one of our other questions of the week, so please check that out to get the answers. So I'm going to kind of stay out of this a little bit on what we do, and we're really going to focus this week on what it is to be in an OCS program. So I'm going to start by asking just a simple question. What is the Officer Candidate School?
The Officer Candidate School is a program run through the active duty Army or through the National Guard to commission officers, typically that already have a bachelor's degree or have a minimum of 90 credits in college, with the expectation that they obtain their bachelor's degree upon commissioning as an officer. So they can complete the program, remain as a soldier, as an enlisted soldier, until they commission, until they get their degree. As long as the soldiers meets the minimum requirements to attend OCS, which is age must be between 18 and 34, covered the education piece of it. The ASVAB, not sure if you've talked about the ASVAB before.
No, we haven't.
But here's an acronym. The minimum score is 110 with the general technical line, which is kind of a combination of multiple pieces of the test.
So for the ASVAB is a test used by that is an enlistment qualifier for those that are trying to be a soldier first. So an ASVAB isn't a requirement for ROTC because we are doing the officer pathway, but for enlistment into active duty, National Guard, reserves, pretty much any branch of the military on their enlisted pathway, you do have to take what's called the ASVAB.
Yep, and that would be a requirement for any OCS program. The 09 Sierra MOS is one where you can enlist into the Army, any component, active duty, National Guard, or reserves. You're assigned that MOS, military occupational specialty, and that sets you on a path directly into the OCS program, where many soldiers will enlist first. They'll have a regular job. Mine was cannon crew member for a little while, and then decide to attend OCS after that.
So what actually makes somebody competitive for this particular pathway?
Yeah, there are many ways you can be more competitive for the OCS program. Having a bachelor's degree as opposed to just the credits, minimum credits, is a plus. Any other degrees above that can also help. It's not a deciding factor, but it can help. OCS is a very physically demanding program, so having a high level of fitness, although the minimum on the Army fitness test is all you really need to get into the program, but it can set you apart from your peer group. And then there's an interview panel to determine your fitness to be an officer in the U.S. Army. Your performance on that panel can really make or break you, or help you, get the right assignments you want.
So about that interview process, have you ever sat on the panel?
I have.
Okay. What if someone is like, I'm trying to strategize, so what's a typical question that I need to be prepared to answer?
There are no real hardball questions. They're general conversation type questions, but really like what makes you think you'd be a good officer? Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background. How do you think that would help you be a good officer? What are your viewpoints on leadership and morals and ethics? And similar to ROTC, our OCS candidates get, instruction on all of those types of things: morals, ethics, leadership, and then obviously like the tactics portion of it as well. So you're prepared for what the Army would be looking for, but then tying it to yourself helps really, solidify that.
Nice. And just like with the ROTC scholarship process, for those high school students that are looking to apply for a scholarship, there is an interview process there. Just understand, there is a thin line between confidence and cocky. So we always love people that are confident, but always understand confidence with humility is a trait that is solely needed in the world today. So we just come with that confidence with humility and be ready to answer some good questions. And again, just like Major McCann said, relate those back to what you're doing now, to your process, what you're doing in your life, and kind of, you're not really selling us on how we can make things better for you. You're kind of selling us on how you can make the Army better by being in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Okay, so you did mention that there's an active duty as well as a National Guard OCS. So what's the difference? What's the difference between, like, why would somebody want to choose or think about a National Guard OCS versus going active duty?
Different timelines, different end goals as well. Also, if they're already in one component or the other, there are different ways. Let's say you're in the regular Army, you want to go to OCS, and you're going to stay in the regular Army. Probably the active duty pathway is easiest. If you're in any component and you want to come home to the greatest state in the Union of Michigan and go through my program, that's when you would, seek out our program. Different ways to do that. You can, transfer into the Guard first, which is usually a pretty easy transition, and then get into the National Guard program. The active duty program is usually much quicker. It's all resident. You're assigned there for your time there, and you complete the whole thing at once. In the National Guard, there are a few different options. The traditional, or what the National Guard calls traditional program, is an 18-month program from start to finish, and it follows the National Guard way of doing things. So they are drill weekends. In the National Guard, kind of the catchphrase is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summertime for training, and our program would take those periods and spread them out throughout the year. In Michigan, we also have a 12-month, still called traditional program, but it only takes 12 months to fully complete it. And so that may provide a balance for people on a certain timeline.
Okay, nice. So, as the question of the week, what's the difference? So, given your opinion, given your experience, being the fact that you did come out of ROTC and now you do teach, or you're in charge of the OCS program for the state of Michigan, why would a person want to choose OCS over ROTC, or in what situations would you recommend them go the OCS path versus trying to go through an ROTC program?
Sure. If you already have a bachelor's degree, OCS might be appealing. It's not that you could not do that through ROTC, and I had classmates that were in their master's program and going through ROTC. But it would potentially reduce your time and be 18 months, mostly on the weekends, to get it done. Career changers, professionals that are looking to do something else with their life or something more, and especially if there are those certain skills that fit well with officership, and then coming into the Guard program. Prior enlisted service, as I mentioned, You can have been in the Army for quite a while before you decide to do one path or the other. And sometimes OCS is a little more appealing just based on their personal situation. Degree completion, personal opinion, ROTC is probably the best option if you're going through degree completion. But if your school doesn't have an affiliate ROTC program, it might be challenging to get into. OCS is nationwide, so you can get in there. And then National Guard commitment. Again, ROTC, especially Western Michigan's program, does a really good job of working with the National Guard. But if you don't have that in your area, OCS, again, nationwide, and fairly easy to get in, at least started along the process.
So that brings it, so before we started this, I sent him a list of questions. This is not on the list.
These were all prepared answers, or mostly prepared.
Out of the amount of people that start at the beginning of a program, what do you feel like your typical graduation rate? I know you can only speak on your program,
Yep.
but do most people typically get through?
So the other unique thing about the National Guard program is no one state has all 3 phases for OCS.
Okay.
So we have phase 2, which truly is modeled on the 1 weekend a month model. And then you would use your annual training time to attend phases 1 and phase 3. And that's also why it's kind of an 18-month program to get across the training year or fiscal year lines and be able to have the time. When you go to the other states, their standards or interpretation of standards might just be slightly different for the things that aren't very black and white. Squad level leadership and team level leadership in those positions and the situation that you're training under are very subjective at times. So that can change things. I think the physical demands get many people. The schoolwork, the intellectual demands can be challenging for people, but most people can at least learn them if they're even interested in the program in the first place. Can't give you a specific rate, but those are the things that get people the most. In OCS, there's a 6-mile, a 9-mile, and a 12-mile ruck march. And that's on a weekend when you're doing a lot of other physically demanding. You're walking a lot, you're carrying things, you're doing the Army fitness test. So conditioning is a key. I would say in the last couple years from our program, probably 8 out of 10 that stick with the program, complete the program and commission.
Okay. So maybe we should do a video on how to prepare for the Army fitness test.
I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
And maybe other things like the ruck marches and other physical things you might find in the Army.
All right, coming soon.
Maybe
What is the Army fitness test?
I got a great guy you can interview for that.
Okay.
His name's Paul Fitzpatrick.
Coming for you, Captain Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
All right, you've been called out. All right, so that concludes the list of questions. Thank you very much, sir. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would say, I think whether it's ROTC or OCS, having some enlisted experience first, doesn't have to be much, at least attending basic training, helps provide well-balanced officers. As an officer, you've got to keep your boss's intent in mind and support his intent. But knowing that the decisions you make and what those decisions do to your soldiers, having firsthand experience of that is very important.
All right. Awesome. So that's it for questions of the week for the Bronco Battalion. So you've got your answer. Thank you very much for checking us out. Don't forget to follow information by liking and subscribing. If you've got some questions that you would like to have answered by us, please go ahead and drop them in the comment section. And as always, Broncos lead the way.
Lead the way. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.